Bonjour. Comment ça va? Je m'appelle. Au revoir. Hello. That was me. That was my attempt at French. You know, the funny thing with French, before I even get into anything, I would like to say this. And I'm sure I've said this before, at some point this podcast will just become me repeating things that I've said in the past because I'm out of thoughts. I don't think we're quite there yet, but I'm gonna get the ball rolling with this story that I'm sure I've told. Or not really story, more a sentiment. I studied French for 12 years. Not like professionally or anything, but in school for 12 years. I think about 12. From kindergarten to grade 11. So I think the math on that is about 12 years. Now, you might be thinking 11, but I think because kindergarten counts as like grade 0, from 0 to 11, which is 12 years. I've done the math on this. Trust. But if I've worked at something for 12 years and it hasn't happened yet, I think that is grounds for quitting. You know what I mean? Like, I tried. I put my best foot forward. I don't know French. I've studied it. I had quizzes. I had verbal exams, which were probably the worst. Like the thing I got most nervous for ever. Like I don't get too nervous for things like tests a little bit, like depending on what the test was or like what the stakes were, but I was usually pretty reasonable. I wasn't the kid running around being like, oh my god, we have an exam in 3 hours, like let me try and study everything. Because at the end of the day, like I either studied or I didn't. And I was a pretty good student, so I wasn't ever too worried about that stuff. But something about those oral exams, that sounds like going to the dentist. Like the verbal exams in French, my stomach was churning like butter. I was terrified of those things. Because at the end of the day, do you know what I think it is? I feel like I can talk my way out of a lot. Like, I can think pretty fast. Not to brag. I can think very fast. I'm not saying what comes quick is the best ideas, but I can think pretty well on my feet. I think that's like one of the few gifts that I have. So then when you take that away and I'm not allowed to speak English, I have to speak in French, I feel like I have nothing, am nothing, and am lost out at sea waiting for someone to save me. Someone write that down. That sounds like a song. But you know what I mean? Like, the one thing that I could do is talk my way out of it, and you're not allowing me to talk in my native tongue. I have to speak a different language that I don't know, where they it's not like they give you a script. I wonder how relatable this is. First of all, does every country not that this is international by any means. Again, weekly reminder, no one listens to this, I understand. But does every country, like, you have to learn a language? Like, in Canada, you have to learn French because that's, like, the second official, or like, we have two official languages, English and French. So you have to learn the second one. I know in the States, from my understanding, you have to learn Spanish. So I assume that other countries have this, but regardless, anyone who's taken sort of a language class, I'm sure you had to do these oral exams. But yeah, it was my least favorite class. No offense to anyone who that might offend. French is a beautiful language. It's a great language. I wish I knew more of it. It's just not a language that I can speak, and I feel like after 12 years of trying, I just kind of had to let it go. But interestingly enough, I feel like I've held on to the little bit that I know. When you compare it to the amount of knowledge I've held on to from different subjects, if that makes sense. Like, if I had to take a French, like, written test, the written tests weren't as bad as the verbal ones. Because at least if there's a multiple choice, like, you have a 25% chance of getting it right. But, like, in a verbal exam, all you have is, like, your brain and that you're thinking in a different language of which you have to speak. Terrifying. And again, the most nervous I've ever been. I can pinpoint. I can't tell you the day because I don't know the day, but I can pinpoint the time I was most nervous ever in my entire life. And it was the hour before my grade 11 French exam. Now, I'm pretty sure I got a B in that class, so it was all, it was all good in the end. All was good, but it was just, all was bon. But, je déteste le examen. But yeah, like if I had to take a grade 11 math test and my grade 11 written French test, I could probably do better on the French than I could on the math, because my philosophy with tests was learn it for the test. And that really, it's my philosophy and also my problem with tests. I could memorize anything. Not like I have the best memory in the world, but anyone can memorize something long enough to write it on a test paper. And then you hand it in. And I swear, if I took a test at 11 o'clock, finished at 12, and you made me take that exact same test at 2, like we got a lunch break and I had to go back and take the same test without knowing that I had to do that, I would do significantly worse on the second try, because that information, gone. I knew it enough to get a decent mark on the test, and I set it and forget it. I have no scientific evidence to support that claim. I never tried it. I never tested it. I don't know that I really could, because if I knew that I had to remember it, I would remember it. But if I knew that that was the last time I ever had to know that information, it like evaporated, which I think is the problem with test taking. Forgive the ASMR, that was my big gulp. I went to 7-Eleven this morning, and I had to go to 7-Eleven this morning because I was unsure if I could show up to a McDonald's at 10:45 and order a Diet Coke through the drive-thru, because I know that their breakfast starts at 11, and I don't know that you can get pop in the morning. But if you think about it, that machine is always running. So I'm sure that you actually could, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to do the healthy thing and go to a 7-Eleven and get a big gulp that I had to, get out of the car, walk, get a few steps in, burn it off, preactively burn it off, even though it is a Diet Coke. There's no way there are actually 0 calories in a Diet Coke. That has to be fake. Because what is it? What is it? Like, what am I tasting? So what I'm tasting is 0 calories. Although I never really understood, not that I care about calories, but I never really understood how liquid has calories. Like, isn't calories like food? Like, how does liquid make you fat? I understand how, like, a milkshake does. And, like, if you got a burger and then blended it and then drank it, like, that, I understand that. But, like, how does, like, soda? See how I said pop before and soda this time? I'm translating for international audiences. We just need people national or international to start listening, and then it's, like, perfect, ready to go. But, yeah, I never really understood how, like, liquid was calories. Like, how liquid could turn into fat. But I'm sure there's a very simple explanation. There's a lot of simple stuff I don't understand. I claim to be a lot of things. Smart is not one of them. What I do claim to be good at is merging two random conversations. Or it's not really conversations if I'm talking to myself. Two random thoughts together. So what I will say to kind of wrap up this intro, I haven't even introduced the show yet. Although, again, no one's listening, so who cares? Speaking of the French language and nutritional information, one time I was looking at the wrapper of like a cheese that I saw at the store, and one side was English, one side was French. Common practice, not weird at all. I'm pretty sure that's like a government regulated thing. Like you have to show, and like I was saying before, French is an official language of Canada, English is the other official language. You have to have labels be in both so that, there's more opportunity for everyone to know what they're reading. Beautiful, love it. But I noticed that there is a discrepancy in the calorie count from the English side to the French side. So, like, on the English side, it said it was, like, I don't remember the details, but, like, 60 calories. On the French side, it said it was, like, 63. So I'm starting to think, and I'm sure this is very easily Googleable, that they're lying to us. Okay, you didn't hear it from me. You did not hear it from me, but I think we're being lied to by whoever is writing the calorie numbers on these things. But no, I'm pretty sure it's like public information that they're allowed to round down a certain amount of calories. Which, like, if you're telling me a Big Mac is 670 calories, but it's actually 680, not a huge deal. But if you're telling me that something is 0 when it's actually 7, that's like 700% more than what we're being told, I think. Or 7%? No, 700. I don't know, 700 sounds more dramatic. Either way, something's going on, but the French are honest. Okay? Speaking of McDonald's, I would like to, I don't know that this is a formal segment, but I would like to get back to some structure. I think I've talked about this in, the past few weeks. So what I will be doing today is a food review segment. Now, this is a hard one because I'm sure as you can tell, I'm a very positive person. I complain almost never. But if something's bad, I have to say that it's bad. And I could try to avoid it. I could try to lie to you and get a sponsorship, but I'm starting to think that that's not going to happen anyway. So, by the way, welcome to the Nobody Asked for This podcast. I hope you've had a good week. Very grateful for you to be tuning in. Let's get to it, even though we've been at it for 11 minutes. But like I was saying, I realized that the sponsorships probably aren't going to happen anyway. So we're just going to go for it and be honest. So McDonald's released their spicy nuggets. Now, this is a re-release. I don't know what the situation is like in other countries. I know that the menu is different, but at least in Canada, where I am at, the spicy nuggets were with us, I want to say last summer, like not the one that just passed, but like the summer 2021. And then they brought them back just this January 2023, as we've covered. We've made it to 2023. So about a year and a half ago, and I did try them a year and a half ago, and I didn't love them, because here's the thing, I should be the target audience for this. I love chicken nuggets, and I love spicy. Like, my two favorite things, they're gonna combine them. Like, this should be for me. Like, I bet you my picture was in the boardroom. They're like, okay, who is this for? What is the demo of this? And it's literally me. And I was so excited. So I'll tell you, my review from a year and a half ago was not that spicy, but not bad. Now, I have to tell you, back in 2021, I was coming off of a pretty harrowing experience that I had encountered that March of 2021. So I was trying the spicy nuggets in, I want to say June of 2021, but a mere, what is the math on that? 3 months before, I had experienced something pretty horrific, which I might have talked about this in the early episodes of the podcast, but I want to say it was March 7th, 2021. I have a weird memory like that. Like, I remember specific dates of very milestone moments in my life. I had tried the Burger King all-dressed nuggets. Now, if anyone, this is serious. If anyone hadn't tried the Burger King all-dressed nuggets, I have to tell you, you are chosen, you are blessed, you were protected, you were covered in divine light, because I tried them. And I have to say, if I close my eyes and I picture the promotional poster marketing for the all-dressed Burger King chicken nuggets, I can taste it. And it's not a good taste. It's almost like, do you know when you burn microwave popcorn and you can smell it? Like, it's like stuck in your nose, or like any like bad smell, like you drive past a skunk, like you can smell it. I don't know if that's just me, but like your what is it called? Your, not auditory, but the one for your nose. Your smellatory memory. I can't think of the correct term, but that's what we're going to call it now. You know how it like smells can stick and you're nowhere near the smell anymore, but you can still smell it? I could still taste it and smell it, but taste it, my tastatory memory. if I close my eyes. Now, it was the worst thing I had ever experienced in my life. And for everyone who doesn't know, I'm pretty sure they have all dressed chips other places, but it might just be a Canadian thing. It's basically, it's a chip flavor that's like onion. It's like kind of salt and vinegar, kind of ketchup flavored, kind of onion. It's like sour cream and onion. It's kind of like everything, all dressed. They're really good. But they don't work in a chicken nugget. I learned that fateful day in March of 2021. I also learned that Burger King nuggets are probably not chicken. I think they're horse meat. I bit into it and I heard a nay. So I was like, what is happening here? They were also like dirt cheap. Since that moment, I've never been more grateful to pay for a chicken nugget that was more than like $5 for 20, because I was like, okay, at least this is probably contains traces of actual chicken meat. I'm pretty sure PETA, like the Vegan Association, would have no problem putting their stamp of approval on the Burger King nuggets because they actually don't contain meat. Unless it's like, again, like I said, horse meat, where it is still an animal. It's just not chicken. But it's not chicken. Like if there was a chicken association that was fighting for the salvation of chickens, they would put their stamp of approval because there's not chicken in Burger King nuggets. I'm starting to think now, do they even call them chicken nuggets or do they just call them nuggets? Regardless, disgusting. So my reason for telling you this is that I think the last novelty chicken nugget I had tried when I ordered the spicy chicken nuggets in June of 2021 was the all-dressed chicken nugget from Burger King that, again, I had that March. So I had no expectations. I was like, if this doesn't make me gag, if I don't hear horsal noises when I bite into this chicken nugget, talking about the spicy chicken nugget, then it's already getting at least an 8 out of 10 for me. So again, I tasted it, not too spicy. They did have a flavor to them. It wasn't spice, but it was a flavor. They also, funnily enough, they come with like a side of spicy dip, which like, if your chicken is spicy enough, like why do I need the dip? It's like when you're buying something and they're like, do you want the warranty? It's like, well, is it going to break? You know? It's like, why do I need this extra step? But anyway, my review at the time was like not terrible. I wasn't so sad when it wasn't a permanent thing and they went away. I could live with the regular chicken nuggets that we had, where I would therein just put my own seasoning on it. So we were fine. When they were gone, I wasn't doing a protest. I wasn't adding it to the snack graveyard segment, which, if anyone doesn't know, it's where we pay honor to snacks that have been discontinued, the D word. But I didn't have those feelings about the spicy chicken nuggets. I was at peace with them not being in my life anymore. And then they brought them back, and I was like, oh, let me try. Like maybe my palate changed. Cue COVID. Enter COVID. I had COVID, I want to say in April of 2022. So about almost a year after I tried the spicy nuggets the first time, and a little under a year since I've tried them now, which is like January 2023. I'm pretty much professional because I'm giving you all these dates multiple times, okay? You know what I'm saying? So when I had COVID, I had the loss of smell and taste. Now, smell, I was fine with losing that one, okay? Temporarily. That obviously is like a very serious condition if it doesn't come back. But I only lost it for a couple days. So thankfully, it was no big deal. And there was the silver lining of I didn't have to smell my isolation room, because I'm sure, me in a room with no shower for 5 days probably didn't smell so great. So I was actually, given the circumstances, I felt lucky to have been granted that smell vacation, that time off, the PTO, the smell of my pits PTO. Now, loss of taste was probably the worst thing I've had to come into contact with. Again, that's actually very lucky to get to say that. There's a lot of worse things. But it was probably like completely gone for a week, and then it came back, or so I thought. But every once in a while, I'll bite into something and I'm like, this just doesn't taste like anything. Like it doesn't spark joy, in the way that it used to. I've detailed my weird sinuses. Like, I have weird sinuses. I don't know that it's a condition. I don't know that it's a diagnosable thing, but I just have, like, I'm always kind of getting colds, but they're not really contagious, and I sound like I have a sinus infection all the time, but I don't. It's just my throat. I don't know. Like, an ear, nose, throat doctor would write a textbook on me, I'm pretty sure. That's like, I've never darkened the doors of a ear, nose, throat doctor because I'm scared they'll never let me out of there. They're going to be like, you need to do this, you need to do that. It's like when you go get an oil change, and they're like, your entire car is falling apart. And you're like, well, that's cool. Like, I just need the oil change. And they're like, no. Like, you need to do this and this and that. And they're like showing you all these like test tubes of your fluid looks like this and it should look like that. So I avoid the ear, nose, throat doctor, even though I'm probably like a perfect candidate. Anyway, I'll do a whole nother episode of my sinuses, I promise. But for now, all you need to know is I have weird sinuses. So I'm sure that plays a part in this. But the other day when I went to get the spicy chicken nuggets, I took a bite and I said, this doesn't taste like anything. Like, not like it tasted like a regular chicken nugget. Like, if you handed me that and said this is a regular chicken nugget, I'd be like, perfect. Like, and I would believe you because it didn't taste like anything, and there was no seasoning, there was no flavor, there was no nothing. So I don't know if it was just me. Like, I don't know if I'm the problem. I usually am, but I don't know if in this situation I'm the problem, or if it really doesn't taste like anything. Also, McDonald's, a very popular restaurant chain, in the year 2023, is now advertising that they have ranch dressing. Like, do they want an award for that? You have ranch? Brilliant. Like, yeah, you should have had ranch this whole time. They also have waffle fries, which I could tell you the recipe for, a very secret recipe. You get 4 of the regular fries, and you kind of line them up parallel to each other. Then you get 4 of more regular fries, and then you line them up reverse parallel. I don't know if that's a term, but to the other 4 fries, and then you smush them together. And there you have yourself a McDonald's waffle fry. It's a very secret recipe. It's like underground. They don't really like to advertise it much because, why would you buy it if you do the recipe yourself? But yeah, so I don't know. I'd actually, if anyone else would like to taste test the spicy chicken nuggets and let me know if it's me or them, I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you're worried, like, I don't really like spicy food, from what I could taste, whether it be COVID or my spice tolerance, I don't know. But from what I could taste, they were not spicy. So I implore you all. See, really, like, you could say, you're saying bad things about them, but I'm encouraging. McDonald's, you can still sponsor me. I'm encouraging everybody to go try them. So really, when your sales go up, you're welcome. And I mean, at the end of the day, McDonald's could sell me anything and I'll buy it. Like, they have hit a peak that no one else has. Every other year, it's like a bad story comes out. Their chicken isn't chicken. It's like pink goop. They, soak their meat in bleach or like ammonia or whatever. Like, at this point, I'm going to buy it. Like, you know what I mean? I don't care what story comes out. Like, I'm still going to McDonald's. So really, McDonald's, respect, admiration, but like, maybe add a little bit more spicy to your spicy chicken nuggets. That's all I ask. I don't ask much. Or maybe it's me. I'm open to that as well. Okay, and again, as we're trying to get back to some sort of structure on these shows, I would like to follow up on something that I said I would do last episode, which I don't always do. I feel like I make a lot of empty promises, but no, I'm following through. I don't know if you listened to last week's episode, which should be everyone that's listening to this, because I'm pretty sure 0 people listened to last week and 0 people will listen this week. So the numbers match, which is exactly what we want to see. Maybe we can get those up 700%, like the calorie count of French cheese versus the same cheese, but in English. But if you listened last week, you will know that I started reading Spare Tire by Prince Harry. I had only, I think, made it a quarter of the way through, and I didn't promise to finish it by this week, but I said I will just review the chunk that I've read. Now, shocking given that I'm the slowest reader on planet Earth, I finished the book. And it was a long book. I checked, and the audiobook is like 15 and a half hours. And I'm probably slower than whoever reads the audiobook, like in terms of reading speed. So really, like, I put 20 hours into this thing. So I'm assuming I'll get some sort of paycheck or like be compensated for the hard work. But regardless, I have finished the book. And I promised to tell you that upon finishing the book, I would confirm whether, or not confirm, but I would let you know whether or not it was something that you should read. Now, as I talked about before, the book is split into 3 parts. One part is like when he's at fancy British boarding school, which didn't know he went to fancy British boarding school, kind of jealous. 2 is when he was in the army, and then 3 is the reason everyone bought the book, which is to find out why he had to flee with Meghan Markle. Now, before going into it, and spoiler alert, still now, whatever team Meghan Markle's on is what I'm going with, okay? I feel like she's smart. I feel like she knows what she's doing, so we're with Meghan, okay? Meghan with an H. Now, what I was confused about was I thought I was reading the tell-all book where I was going to get all this, like, all the actual information of what happened. And I was so good. I was avoiding, like, the news articles about it because I didn't want to spoil anything. So I went in, spoiler-free, expecting to be wowed. And I have to say, section 1, kind of boring. I wish I was at fancy British boarding school, but I didn't really need to read a book about fancy British boarding school. But that's fine, whatever. You know, you can write your truth. Okay, next was about the army. Okay, like I could have just watched like American Sniper or something. Like I didn't need an army book from Prince Harry. I needed what was being told in the 3rd part, which was all of the royal news. But I will say I got through the first 2 chapters pretty quickly. The first 2 sections pretty quickly, even though I wasn't necessarily interested. Now, the 3rd part is what, again, everyone bought the book for. So I would actually say, if you can go to a library, I don't know how ethical this is, but if you can go to the library or like a bookstore and you have a few hours on your hands, like let's say, for instance, you have a dentist appointment and your dentist is across from like a bookstore. Maybe go like a few hours before, go to the bookstore before your appointment, go to the bookstore, find this book, go to, I think it's like page 260, and then just read part 3. That's all you really need to know. Even though, like I said, I'm a slow reader, and if I'm not interested, like it is literally impossible for me to finish a book, and I finished it. So if you want to read the whole thing, read the whole thing. Get it at Costco, it's cheaper. Or just borrow it from somebody. If you're just interested in the fleeing, just go to the bookstore, sit down, maybe get a coffee. There's usually like a Starbucks in a bookstore, and just read like the last 150 pages. Because again, that's all you really need to know. But even with that, I have to say, nothing revolutionary. I think he's done specifically like too many tell-all things. Funnily enough, their interview with Oprah, where she goes, "Are you silent or are you silenced?" That was the same day where I ate the spicy chicken nugget, or not the spicy chicken nuggets, forgive me, the horse meat Burger King all dressed chips chicken nuggets. It was the same day. Synergy. So when I think about that interview, I think spicy chicken nuggets. Like I kind of, you know, when you throw up in your mouth a little bit, that happens when I think about that interview, but not because of them, because of the all dressed nuggets. So just an interesting factoid. But yeah, there's really nothing in the book that I think you need to get it to read. Like, I'm sure you could just read the articles. Basically, like I said before, he calls his brother Willie. Willie is pretty much the worst. Queen Chip, as we referred to him on this show. He goes back and forth with Queen Chip. Sometimes he's the worst, sometimes he's not. Queen Chip's wife is another one of the worst, as portrayed in this book. I also realized that in my family, like, I'm the second born, so I'm the spare. I realized that about 300 pages in, which I don't know if that means I'm, like, I was not making it about me or should have made it about me sooner. I don't know what that says about me. So I think had I read the whole thing, realizing that I was a spare, I would have maybe had a different take. But yeah, like, pretty neutral feelings. Like, you don't have to read it. I'm sure you could just Google what happens, but like, if you're looking for a book and you want to read about fancy British boarding school, the army, and Meghan Markle, go for it. But yeah, nothing revolutionary that I'm sure you can't just Google. Because again, you can only really tell all like once. And I think he's told all like a few times, which you have to pay the bills. You have to, pay for your security. We're in the same boat. I totally get it. I've had to tell all to pay for my security as well. It's fair. But yeah, I wish I had a more concrete yes or no for you. It's not a no, but it's not like you need to read this book. So I don't know where that leaves us, but yeah, I'm shocked that I actually finished it. But that says more about my reading skills than about my literacy than anything else. So yeah. Anyway, well, this was very fun. This was I feel like I got a lot off my chest. I didn't, sometimes I don't realize that I have all of this on my chest. My chest has never been lighter than when I've started this podcast, because I feel like I didn't realize that I had all this stuff to say, and then it just comes out and we're good. It's like, when you wake up and your stomach's kind of funny, and then you go to the bathroom and you're like, I'm ready to start this day. Similar feeling. If you have that gut feeling, and even going to the restroom, alleviating yourself doesn't fix it, maybe start a podcast. Like maybe that is some sort of alternative medicine that we can start. And then if it works, credit me as a medical professional, and then Yale, is Yale, or what's a fancy medical school? Grey's Anatomy University can give me an honorary degree. And then this can be like, we've all won. But yes, if you can hear that, that is the last few ice cubes of my big gulp, which means I think it's time to go. Once again, I appreciate you listening, all 0 of you. I will remind all none of you that the Nobody Asked for This podcast can be found pretty much anywhere you can listen to a podcast: Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcasts. We have a website, podcastnobodyaskforthis.podbean.com. You can see on there, you can actually listen to the show on there. You can also see our social media. We have an Instagram, a Twitter, Facebook. We had a TikTok. We still do. Hasn't been updated in about 6 months, but it's there. Yeah, I will see you next week. Again, thank you for listening. Have a great week. Au revoir.